There is a question that appears in every mind that suffers. A question whispered by restless thoughts. A question buried beneath anxiety, fear, tension, self-criticism, and doubt. Can a person change their temperament? Can someone prone to negative emotion become calm? Can a mind built for worry learn to breathe in peace? For thousands of years, human beings have asked this same question. Philosophers asked it, kings asked it, soldiers asked it, mothers asked it, artists asked it, the sick and the strong asked it alike, and the Stoics. They did not avoid the question. They walked straight into it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The mind becomes dyed with the color of its habitual thoughts." This is not poetry, it is instruction, a warning, and a map. If the mind can absorb the color of its thoughts, then the mind can be recolored. If the mind becomes the patterns it repeats, then the patterns can be changed. If character is shaped by discipline, then discipline can reshape character. The Stoics believed that no temperament is destiny, that no emotional habit is final, that no anxiety is eternal unless one chooses to bow to it, that no fear is permanent unless one feeds it. Temperament may be the starting point, but it is never the end. So the question becomes, how? How does a person bent toward negative emotion straighten the path of their inner life? Stoicism gives a direction, and today we walk it together. We walk it slowly, like someone crossing a bridge made of glass, one careful step at a time, because this journey is a return to yourself. Part 1. The nature of negative emotion. Negative emotion is not a moral failure. It is not proof of weakness. It is not evidence that something is broken beyond repair. It is not a curse written in your blood. Negative emotion is a signal, an alarm, a messenger. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." The mind that tends toward anxiety is not malfunctioning. It is over-calculating danger. It is trying to protect you. It is building scenarios so you can avoid pain. It is rehearsing stories of loss so you will not be surprised. It is scanning the horizon for threats you cannot see. Fear is not always irrational. It is often a response to confusion, to unfinished stories, to chaotic environments, to the unknown future, to the unresolved past. Marcus wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The obstacle is not merely outside. The obstacle is also inside. Unfinished thinking, unanswered questions, undigested experiences, unresolved conflict. The mind carries what it does not understand like a weight of stones tied to the heart. Anxiety is often the tension between two worlds, the world that happened and the world not yet built. Past and future form pressure around the present. If those forces are not understood, they press the mind downward. So the Stoics teach one thing first: understand yourself. Not in a mystical way, not in a dramatic way, but in a patient and sober way. You must complete your own story. Otherwise, the mind will live in fragments, in memories that never settled, in conclusions that were never written, in events that ended but have not ended in you. This is why Marcus Aurelius wrote every night, not for poetry, not for fame, not for readers. He wrote to finish his day, to conclude it, to remove the unfinished pieces from his mind, to close the doors of the past each night so anxiety could not enter in the morning. The first lesson: unfinished stories become emotional storms. Finish them. Part 2. Closing the past. How does someone finish their story? How does a person who lived through pain, conflict, confusion, betrayal, fear, or loss bring those events to rest? The answer is written across Stoic tradition. There is no clarity without honesty. Sit with yourself. Write your story, not your biography, your story. Write about what happened, what you lived, what you avoided, what you wanted, what you feared, what you lost, what you loved, what you regret, what remains unexplained. Not to blame anyone, not to justify anything, not to reopen wounds, but to make sense of the events that shaped you. When something happened that you did not understand, the mind stores it as danger. It becomes part of its calculation. The mind works like a map. Unfinished roads are labeled unsafe. By writing your past clearly, you turn those unknown roads into routes you have walked consciously. They stop being shadows. They stop being mysteries. They stop being fear. They become knowledge. Epictetus wrote, "If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish." To write your truth, you must first be willing to look in the mirror without justification, without performance, without excuses. As long as the past remains a fog, the future remains uncertain, because the past is the foundation of your understanding. When the foundation is unclear, every possibility looks risky. Every opportunity looks dangerous. Every relationship looks fragile. Every change looks catastrophic. So the Stoic path begins with a door, honesty about what was. When you face every memory directly, your mind recalculates danger. The unknown becomes known. The unfinished becomes finished. The brain stops preparing for shock. This reduces the baseline of suffering, not because trauma disappears, but because understanding reduces uncertainty, and uncertainty is fuel for anxiety. The past will not change, but the meaning of the past is not fixed. Meaning is found when you understand your story. That is how negative emotion begins to dissolve. Understanding turns pain into wisdom. Ignorance turns pain into fear. Part 3. Order and calm. The Stoics believed that external disorder creates internal tension, not metaphorically, literally. Chaos around you becomes noise inside you. Mess outside becomes agitation inside. A disorganized environment becomes a disorganized emotional field. This is why the Stoics practiced order, not as a form of perfection, not as a personality trait, as a medicine. Marcus Aurelius arranged his camp like a temple. Seneca arranged his papers like a monastery. Epictetus arranged his few possessions like a lesson. Order is not about cleanliness. It is about clarity. Order is visible self-respect. It is a silent declaration that your reality matters. When you put your world into order, your desk, your room, your schedule, your finances, your responsibilities, you reduce the number of unknowns. Every unknown is a seed of anxiety. Every unfinished task is a whisper of threat. Every chaotic pile is a question unanswered. Negative emotion decreases when the world becomes negotiable, predictable, understandable. Stoicism teaches something paradoxical. Discipline is medicine for emotion. Duty is treatment for fear. Order is therapy for anxiety. When you maintain structure, you tell yourself a truth. I can shape my world. And the moment the mind believes you can shape your world, the brain stops whispering, you are helpless. Anxiety is the child of perceived helplessness. Order proves the opposite. Part 4. The danger of self-focus. The mind that suffers often turns inward. It watches itself. It analyzes every feeling. It interrogates every thought. It monitors every emotion. It becomes hyper-aware of its own pain. The Stoics warned against this trap. Marcus wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Excessive self-focus turns the mind into a mirror room. Reflections reflecting reflections. Every emotion becomes a question. Every question becomes a story. Every story becomes a fear. Self-focus magnifies emotion. It does not solve it. The Stoics believed that a person becomes emotionally free when they stop asking, "How do I feel?" and begin asking, "How can I serve? What can I build?" Service is not charity, it is direction. It points the mind outward, away from the storm of internal analysis. When you focus on helping others, the brain is no longer circling the labyrinth of self. This is why Marcus Aurelius carried the entire Roman world every morning. It protected his own mind. Service is not burden. Service is grounding. Service dissolves the illusion that you are alone in your pain. Epictetus taught, "No man is an island. If you wish to be happy, learn to give." You cannot escape fear by telling yourself, "Stop thinking about myself." That is another form of self-focus. But you can dissolve fear by focusing your attention fully on the world outside. Support your partner, help a friend, guide a child, serve your community, build something that matters, contribute to someone's growth, solve a problem for someone else. This creates a shift. The mind stops chewing its own thoughts and begins acting. Emotion is not healed by observation alone. Emotion is healed by participation. Part 5. The courage of exposure. Stoicism has no illusion about fear. Fear will not leave simply because you understand it. Fear will not disappear simply because you write about it. Fear will not dissolve simply because you analyze it. Fear leaves when you walk into the direction of what you avoid. One controlled step at a time, not dramatic, not heroic, not sudden, but gradual, incremental, strategic. Stoics invented what modern psychology calls exposure. They called it voluntary discomfort, and it was central to their philosophy. Seneca would sleep on the floor once a month to remove the fear of poverty. Marcus Aurelius trained in the mud to remove the fear of hardship. Epictetus walked into conflict to test his peace. The principle is simple. You weaken fear by approaching it. You strengthen fear by avoiding it. Your mind learns by watching your actions. When you walk away from fear, your brain concludes, "The danger is real." When you walk toward fear, your brain concludes, "I can handle it." And this is the deepest form of transformation, not becoming fearless, but becoming capable. Fear does not vanish. You outgrow it. So the path is clear. Identify what you avoid. Write it down. Break it into pieces. Plan a small step. Take that step. Repeat tomorrow. Not as punishment, not as aggression, but as liberation. Every time you face something you fear, you prove something to yourself. I am the kind of person who can walk forward. This knowledge is the fuel of calm. This knowledge reduces negative emotion at the roots. Because anxiety is not just fear of the world. Anxiety is also fear of your own inability. When you demonstrate ability, your brain stops predicting failure. Part 6. Physical roots of emotion. Stoicism is not psychology. It is not abstract philosophy. It is life philosophy. The Stoics did not separate mind and body. They believed that emotional suffering can be caused by physical imbalance, poor diet, lack of sunlight, inflammation, exhaustion, suppressed immune response, toxic environments, lack of movement, disrupted sleep. Seneca wrote, No man can think clearly with sickness in his blood. Modern research confirms what Stoics intuitively understood. The body creates signals the mind interprets as emotion. If the body is inflamed, the brain interprets it as danger. If the gut is unbalanced, the brain interprets it as threat. If nutrients are low, the brain interprets it as fear. If sleep is disrupted, the brain interprets it as anxiety. Stoicism demands investigation of life itself, not only of emotions, but of habits. Do you eat food that creates inflammation? Do you sleep like someone preparing for war or someone surviving a battle? Do you drink water or only caffeine? Do you breathe deeply or shallowly? Do you move your body or only move your thoughts? Do you sit under sunlight or behind screens? This is not biohacking. It is ancient wisdom. The body is the foundation of the mind. You cannot rebuild calm while your biology screams chaos. Epictetus said, "First, take care of the body, then the soul. Investigate all possibilities. Not every anxiety is emotional. Some anxieties are physical messages. A wise person does not assume they understand their suffering. A wise person investigates it." Part 7. The Stoic Plan for Transformation. To change temperament, you need a structure, not vague inspiration, not motivational slogans, not sudden transformation, not overnight miracles. Stoicism is the art of building character through ritual. A ritual is a repeated action that shapes identity. Here is the Stoic method, adapted for the modern world. 1. Clear the past. Write the story of your life. Everything unresolved, everything unfinished, everything unclear. Do not perform. Do not dramatize. Do not blame. Write to understand. 2. Define the future. Ask, where am I going? Who do I want to be? What will I build? Write it. Name it. Define it. Without direction, anxiety fills the void. 3. Create order. Make your world simple. Clear the room. Clean the desk. Organize the finances. Define the schedule. Remove excess. Stop chaos at the source. Order is peace. 4. Serve. Help someone today. Small, simple, quietly. Not to erase yourself, to free yourself from obsessive self-thinking. 5. Confront fear. Make a list of everything you avoid, every unfinished task, every denied responsibility, every fear that grows when ignored. Break them into tiny steps. Do one step, tomorrow another. Tiny courage builds massive strength. 6. Care for the body. Sleep. Move. Eat clean. Reduce inflammation. Seek sunlight. Drink water. Observe reactions. Your mind stands on your biology. Part 8. The Stoic principle of self-creation. Temperament is not destiny. It is the raw material of destiny. Marcus Aurelius was not born calm. He built calm through preparation, through writing, through honesty, through duty, through order, through service, through exposure to fear, through discipline, through physical training. The Stoic path is not to remove emotion. It is to train it, to sculpt it, to teach it how to serve you instead of dominate you. You are not trying to become a different person. You are trying to become yourself without fear. Stoicism is not about suppressing emotion. It is about steering it. Seneca taught, "He who fears death will never do anything worthy of a living man." Fear is not only fear of death, it is fear of life, fear of trying, fear of failing, fear of rejection, fear of being seen, fear of responsibility, fear of potential. Stoicism ends this paralysis with one idea. You are capable of more than the voice of your anxiety. Not because you will be fearless, but because courage grows faster than fear when fed. Part 9. The Stoic Vision of Calm. Calm is a skill, not a trait. Peace is a discipline, not a gift. Strength is a habit, not a miracle. The Stoics believed that personality is shaped by repeated choices. Neural pathways may create tendencies, but tendencies are not chains. Epictetus was born into slavery. He became free through philosophy. Marcus Aurelius was born into empire. He became humble through philosophy. Seneca was born into privilege. He became wise through hardship. Different beginnings, same method. Choose your character, then build it every day. If you want to become calm, live the life of someone calm. Act with order, think with clarity. Do not lie to yourself. Finish your past, build your future. Face fear gently, serve others naturally, care for the body deeply, speak slowly, act meaningfully, wake with intention, sleep with closure. Calm is built, emotion is trained, temperament is shaped. Stoicism is the blueprint. Part X, the inner temple. Imagine your mind as a temple, a place where your thoughts walk like priests, where memories live like statues, where the future stands like an altar. The temple is either dark, chaotic and crowded, or clean, quiet and sacred. Who cleans the temple? Not time, not chance, not fortune. You, one act at a time. Every written memory cleans a corner of the temple. Every finished task removes dust from the altar. Every courageous step opens a window. Every act of service lights a candle. Every moment of discipline builds the stone walls stronger. This is how temperament changes. Not through desire, through construction. You build the person you wish to become, not in thought, in action. The temple of your mind will never be perfect. It doesn't need to be. It needs to reflect care. Care for your story, care for your future, care for your world, care for your service, care for your body. Care is the opposite of anxiety. Care is engagement with life. Part 11. Stoic affirmations spoken slowly. Repeat these slowly. I am capable of understanding my past. I can close unfinished stories. I can define my future with clarity. I will create order in my world. I will serve others with sincerity. I will walk toward what I fear. I am the kind of person who moves forward. My body and mind are connected. I care for both with intention. Calm is a skill I can build. Peace is a path I can walk. I choose discipline over despair. I choose clarity over confusion. I choose courage over avoidance. I choose service over isolation. I choose to build my character. I choose to build my world. I choose to be the author of my story. Part 12. The Stoic Answer. So can you change your temperament? Can someone prone to negative emotion become calm? Yes, not by wishing, but by working. Not by rejecting your nature, but by training your nature. Not by suppressing emotion, but by re-educating it. You are not locked into the patterns of the past. You are not imprisoned by your nervous system. You are not sentenced to lifelong fear. You learned anxiety. You can learn calm. You learned avoidance. You can learn courage. You learned confusion. You can learn clarity. And the path is Stoic. Finish your past. Define your future. Build order. Serve others. Face fear slowly. Investigate the body. Repeat every day. This is the answer the Stoics would give to anyone who suffers. You are not broken. You are unfinished. And that is hope. Because what is unfinished can be built. Part 13. Closing. Marcus Aurelius died with peace, not because he was born with a calm temperament, but because he trained his mind like a soldier trains his body. You and he are made of the same material. Your brain is human. Your heart is human. Your fears are human. Your potential is human. The Stoics believed that every person has a flame inside, covered by dust, covered by time, covered by fear, but never extinguished. If you begin today, tomorrow will be lighter. Not because fate will change, but because you will. And that is the highest Stoic truth. Calm is not found. Calm is built.